Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the third edition of Ippon Technologies USA's monthly webinar series. Ippon is a boutique IT consulting company specializing in agile development, big data, and DevOps cloud. We sponsor open source projects like JHipster, which is a very popular web application generator. And a huge part of our culture here at Ippon is our emphasis on thought leadership, which is one of the main reasons why we started doing these monthly webinars. They give our engineers a chance to share their expertise on a topic of their choice. Today, we have Ippon Big Data Engineer Malcolm Thirus presenting on beginner data flow creation in AWS. Before I dive into the content, I want to tell you a little bit about Malcolm. He enjoys riding his motorcycle to work, live streaming online video games for people to watch, and drinking tea. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he has more tea on his desk than Tivana. Before I turn it over to Malcolm, I'd like to encourage everyone to leave questions and comments in the chat window, and Malcolm will address those at the end. All right, thanks everyone, and here's Malcolm.
Thank you very much for that flattering introduction. As Olivia said, this is beginner data flow creation in AWS. The focus on this will be moving your data from a local environment into the cloud. So I want to begin with our scenario. We have a company, Twitched, a subsidiary of Amazon.com, which provides instant messaging to a couple of the Eastern Seaboard locations. Right now they are on-premise, but they've come to us to move their data into the cloud. We will be doing an entirely AWS solution, and we want to make sure that we have a valuable return of investment. So, how do we do this? Right now, this is our setup for the webinar. I'm only going to be using 4 channels for diversity, and all of these have been started up with Docker files. The actual code is unimportant, but this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's literally just connect to the IRC chat and print the response. So, how do we enter into the AWS environment? IRC data, chat room data, is fast data. It is not only big data. It is coming very, very quickly, and after a long amount of time, it will take up a lot of space, a lot of resources. To solve this, we're going to be using Kinesis Firehose, a streaming application. It allows us to continuously ingest it while still maintaining the consumer into S3, which will be our file system. My personal philosophy is the path of least interaction. Oftentimes, our competitors will attempt to change the processes of the clients to better fit into previous lines of business or projects, and oftentimes it introduces risk. I want to immediately take the data and then do all the processing myself, handle it as quickly and efficiently as I can. So, how do we do this? Just a simple import. We create our Kinesis client, and then for every line that is sent, we will push it into Kinesis Firehose. At this point, it's out of our client's hands. Now it is in AWS into the Twitch environment. Now, services we are going to use, Kinesis Firehose, as I mentioned before, is for streaming technology. Amazon S3, I also mentioned before, this is our file system. This is where we're going to place our raw files, our backups. Eventually, we will move into AWS Lambda, which is our serverless microservice situation. And Elasticsearch is going to be used to search through our data at the end. Now, let's go through the motions and start this. So, I've created all of my resources ahead of time in the interest of cohesiveness for the webinar, but you can easily create a delivery stream in very little time at all. To start out, we're going to set up our Kinesis Firehose with the absolute minimum configuration. We're going to place it in the Mal webinar bucket, into a prefix of raw files, a folder. No data transformation, no compression, and error logging is enabled. And with that said, these simple details, which I could head over here, creates a date formatted stored file. It expires, well, not expires, the buffer fills up to 1 megabyte or after 60 seconds, which is another configuration I set down here. I'm not actually going to open these files because, as we can see, the text actually isn't that useful to us. It's very garbled, and it is in its raw IRC format. To make use of this and to allow our client to do something valuable with it, we need to move it into a more standard format. So we're going to move it into JSON, which is supported in most programming languages. To do that, we're going to do the transformation using AWS Lambda. As I mentioned before, Lambda is a serverless architecture. It allows you to create simple functions and start them as needed, and when they're not being used, they will shut themselves down. Our method, our function name, is transform IRC. The code itself is unimportant, but all we need to see here is that I reach out using regular expressions, and I pull the username, the message, and the channel. I create my JSON, and then I push this back to Firehose using the output record. This Firehose is going to be right here. Now I have a little bit more configuration under this stream. The prefix is now formatted just so I can keep them away from each other. Data transformation, however, is enabled, and I pass it the Lambda function that I had created earlier. Using this, with a timeout of 1 minute, any time the Firehose receives data, before it pushes it into S3, it will transform the data. And that is located here. The exact same setup, date formatted, and we have 3 from those. This happened yesterday, so I'm just going to pop open that file, and we see username, message, and channel. So at this point, our client can take the data, and they can do very valuable things with it. They can read through it using MapReduce or Spark. They can ingest this data into their own database, or they can simply visualize it using either Tableau or their own visualization services. To eliminate the need for a couple of these, we can actually create a delivery stream that pushes the data directly to the Elasticsearch service that Amazon provides. So I had to, ahead of time, create the IRC chat domain just so that it knew where these documents were going to go. So the configuration on the left is what we had before. The stream name, what buckets put it in, a new prefix, again, and the Lambda function. Everything is the same, but now we have an Elasticsearch domain that we are also going to be placing it in. Domain is IRC chat, index of Twitch, no rotation, and the buffer size I placed equal to the buffer size of S3, just so that everything happened near simultaneously. So this bucket is Elastic, and this Firehose stream is right now active. I am pushing data to this currently. So I go into here, and I can see today, in fact, during this webinar alone, I have added, what, 10? Yeah, about 10 files, 11 files, something like that. So S3 is the backup, but this Firehose also pushes to Elasticsearch. And included in every Elasticsearch is the ability to open Kibana, which is an Elasticsearch plugin that allows you to explore your data and maintain control over it and things like that. So 14 active shards, 3 nodes. You can open Kibana and see. If I do a search, this is the Kibana user interface, by the way. If I do a command line search for all, I get 6,726 chat messages that I've ever got. Now, if I want to look for something specific, say the word LOL, 150 people have laughed out loud. I also have history here for my checking. Kappa is a emoticon in these chat rooms, and we can see that 114 people have used that emoticon. Now, we can also check how many people have used both in one message. And the answer is none. So this sort of interaction we could hand to a data scientist or to our client to say, in case you need to know what your data looks like, or you want to check users for bullying or spam messages or things like that, you can do that. I can also say, give me every message that Joshi Potts has ever sent. So I say add username, Joshi Potts. Give me 1 second while this loads. Yeah. Wow. We'll come back to that. So another thing we can do with an unlimited search here is to say, what does this data look like? So by default, it gave me y-axis count and an x-axis of my top 20 channels. Well, I only have 4 channels, but Kibana says I have, 7. So this is something that's very interesting to a data science because that means that we have dirty data in there somewhere, and they're going to want to clean that out. True talent here is clearly the majority leader with 3,779 messages. And then it sort of tapers down to these two. I believe Professor Broman is actually offline right now. So we're not going to see a lot of interaction here until later on in the day. Kibana also lets us see it in table format. So this is something that we can, of course, export and then import back into maybe an Excel document or Tableau, anything for our clients to really see the value in our data. Now, with all that being said, what have we accomplished? With very limited client interaction, just the import that I showed and 2 lines of code, we can collect their data as raw input on the file system as a backup. We transformed the data into a JSON format such that it was easy to manipulate and check, and we loaded it into a managed Elasticsearch instance. All of these services have security roles and everything else, which means from a network standpoint, you can control who has access to every portion of this environment. In other words, we have a full ETL solution entirely in AWS. I managed to explain it all to you within about 20 minutes or so, and it only took me about 12 man-hours to set up. And with that, let's open the floor to questions.
Great, Malcolm. Thank you so much.
or two yesterday, I've managed to accrue a whopping 10 cents. So that, of course, will rise with your number of messages and how much storage you're using. But as far as pricing goes, all of your cost will be associated with your throughput. Kinesis Firehose has a charge per hour of you having it up, and it also charges per message that you take in. So the per message is going to be your largest cost here. Elasticsearch also has a charge for every put request into it. So there is your other major charge. So depending on how much data you have coming in will affect your cost. So with 6,700 and something requests pushed in, I've managed 10 cents.
All right. Another question is, what are the expanded applications for this capability?
So the expanded applications, right now, you can use Elasticsearch as a aggregation tool such that you can tell what the most common speech patterns are. You could take this data using AWS Lambda and also enhance the data, possibly with Stanford Core Natural Language Processing, some sort of sentiment analysis, and grab more information as it's ingested. You could also move a backup of the data from Elasticsearch into a local MongoDB, one that you set up on one of Amazon's servers, or using DynamoDB as a replacement, and then use that data in machine learning applications or in simple, I would say, just batch jobs in general. So yeah, those are a couple of the applications I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, and one more question. What was the most difficult part of the setup in this demo?
So right now, there are a lot of web services, well, not web services, there are a lot of blog articles and a lot of tutorials explaining how to move data from Firehose into Elasticsearch, but very little explain how to do that with Lambda in the middle. I actually had the pleasure of receiving 3 emails from my coworkers. All 3 of them had received an email from Amazon saying that I was using Lambda incorrectly and I was returning multiple records with the same ID. It actually stopped all of my setup from working. Nothing was being pushed to Elasticsearch, and I suspect that that was the issue. So I think that was the most difficult part of this. Everything else, honestly, took me maybe an hour, and most of that hour was just reading.
All right, well, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to wrap things up. If you have any further questions for Malcolm about what you shared with us today or questions about Ippon services in general, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can see both of our email addresses there on the screen. So we'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time.